Hello, welcome everyone to the spotlight. And look, I don't even have to say it. You see it right there. We're talking about Cody today. Jensen, Cody's in your spotlight. Stardust is in the spotlight.
Absolutely. We have Stardust talk today. I'll be removing the mask shortly because it muffles my voice so much. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about today, Jeremy. A lot going on in the life of Cody Rhodes and just in wrestling in general. A lot of good stuff this week on the spotlight.
I mean, at least the Cody topic is he's leaving AEW. That's where we're going to start. He's leaving AEW. Guys, I'm Jeremy Lambert, by the way. This is Stephen Jensen, not Stardust. He's going to unmask and reveal himself. I hope you have your face painted like Stardust. Oh my God! I did not know that was coming.
I felt like it was my duty being a part of this show. I have to come with these kind of shenanigans. So yeah, I got you right here.
I did not know. Oh, he's even got. Oh man. Oh. Where do we go from here?
Anyway, I couldn't do the face paint too. Sorry, y'all. But, I figured that would suffice, and I can't do the show with the gloves on because it's impossible to navigate my computer with these things on. So,
there you go. That was tremendous. I mean, I didn't think you painted your face in that short of time, but I knew you had gone to get the mask. I did not realize you had to double up on the mask. Oh, that was so good. Tremendous. Guys, you can leave a super chat, and I feel like Stephen Jensen deserves some super chats for that. Great bit. JJ says, hello to my favorite big star, king of the Indies watcher. All the moving parts is healthy for the business. Victory laps for Joe and Bob. Love you guys. Thanks, buddy. Hope you're doing well, JJ. Hope things are well for you. It has been a big week in the world of wrestling. Josh says, checking SRS's news feed every morning. It seems like there's just something new every single week in wrestling. But we are going to start and get your super chats in. Super chats, get your question, comment, statement read on air. You can also get your Humper chats in, humperchats.com. Get your question, comment, statement read on air. That really helps us. That supports the show. That supports everything we do here at Fightful. And as it was kind of announced this past week, we hit 5,000 subscribers on Patreon with the Fightful Select, which is a big deal. I don't do anything over there, but Stephen Jensen is over there every single week with the Weekender. So big deal over there, and all the super chats and all the support with Fightful Select help get us paid. And we like money. We appreciate that. We want to get paid like Cody Rhodes, right? Like that's why he left. We want to get paid like Cody Rhodes, so we can eventually leave and go off and make even more money. Cody is gone from AEW. It is I didn't see this coming. I did not. I did not see this coming at all. Like, what are your thoughts here? You are the Cody Rhodes stan, the Cody Rhodes mark on this show. We did do an entire roundtable on Cody discussing where we thought this character was going. And, Cody said it's something we've never done before. We're going to surprise a lot of people. I think everybody's surprised. I don't think this is what everyone thought we were going to do or thought Cody was going to do, but I'm pretty sure people are surprised. This is the end game for him, is apparently going to WWE.
Yeah, this is wild. Like, if you had asked me when Cody came back into the match with Sammy Guevara, the ladder match, I would have said there was like a less than a 10% chance of him leaving. And like, even that would have been like a liberal, like high estimate at like 10%. Like, this is wild. I mean, there's so many layers to the whole thing with him being an EVP and the kind of the reports about him maybe not being a part of the booking decisions going forward, and Tony Khan wanting to do that solo. And there's just a lot of layers to it. But I will say this is going to be surprising, I think, for a lot of people to hear me say, I'm really excited for Cody in WWE. I really am, because for one, it gives me a reason to want to watch the show. Like, the thing's been so damn stale for years that it's like, all right, I'm interested to see at the very least what they do with Cody on that show. I don't think he's going to walk in getting blindsided. Like, I don't think he's going to go in and, like, if he doesn't want to do Stardust, he's not going to do Stardust. Like, if he doesn't, like, he has leverage in this situation. And, he's going to make a lot of money. I mean, millions a year, probably signed for like 2 or 3 years. And like, you can always come back to AEW to wrap his career up if he wants to. So, I think it's one of those things. He left WWE to prove to Vince that he was a main event star and a guy that he could really invest in. Cody left, and he more than did that. Created their competition. Is a massive star in the world of wrestling now. And it would be shocking if he didn't treat Cody like a main eventer when he came into AEW to WWE, because they need main eventers. They've only really got Roman, then they have like the second tier under him of like Rollins and Owens and like Balor and like, I guess Balor's even lower than that now. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like they need main event guys and big names. So like, I'm excited to see what Cody does. And AEW is so stacked with talent. Like they're not going to be, you know what I mean? Like I want Cody in AEW, but like the AEW is going to be fine without him. And there's openings for Cody in WWE to be a big star right now. So I'm actually excited for it.
I think it was very obvious that the Cody stuff, I mean, we joked about the Codyverse, right? Like it's very obvious that the Cody stuff in AEW felt like it was a separate piece compared to what a lot of guys in that company were doing. The stuff with Malachi and then Pac and Andrade got involved. And I'm not saying this was bad. I love this stuff. I loved what Cody was doing. He was trying to do something a little bit different, but again, it didn't feel like it was always fitting in with everything because he has his own vision for wrestling. He's talked about it plenty of times. Like he likes to do the Southern 80s style wrestling, and that is not what Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks totally like to do. And I think Tony Khan, even though he is a wrestling connoisseur and likes a little bit of everything, the buffet, as they would always refer to it, I think Tony Khan leans more towards doing stuff in the now more than, hey, let's go back to the 80s and do Mid-South kind of things. It was always disconnected from everything else that was going on in AEW, but you thought there was a plan with everything because you just didn't see Cody leaving. So you figured there was some type of plan. I don't know what the plan was. I don't think this was it. It is weird that he is now gone because it felt like all four of those guys were just going to be there forever. They helped start this company. This company does not exist. I don't want to say without Cody Rhodes, because it really doesn't exist without Tony Khan. He is the one who, invested in it and made it what it was, got the TV deal and everything. Cody Rhodes was the one that said, I'll take that bet. The infamous all-in bet. Like he was the one that said that. He was the one, no offense to the Young Bucks, to Kenny Omega and everything, but they were in New Japan. They were in ROH for a while. When Cody left WWE out on a mission to prove himself, he was the one that kind of lifted those guys to that level and seemed like he had a bigger vision of, hey, let me just kind of keep doing what I'm doing in New Japan and ROH and see where we can go. It seemed like Cody had a bigger vision than all of that. And AEW is not what it is, certainly, if Cody Rhodes is not there with his influence and with his backing and with his his work ethic. Like, it's just not there without him. So I was stunned to see him leave. I don't know what it comes down to, if he clashed with Tony on booking ideas. We've heard the stories over the years of all four EVBs have kind of lost a little bit of booking power. I don't know if it came down to money and Tony has his budget. I feel that's like, I'm sure he does have a budget. I'm sure Cody did want to get paid. You would think if it just came down to money, they would compromise somewhere. It seems like there was a little bit more to it than that. We don't know the full story. We might not ever know the full story. Cody's going to be on the bump, just nodding his head, answering questions about Caleb Braxton, or from Caleb Braxton and everything. I don't know what the full story is with Cody. I am stunned to see him leave. You said it, though. I don't think that AEW loses much. And I say that as someone who was enjoying the Cody stuff, because his stuff was so disconnected. They have such a deep roster. It's like, if you're losing Cody, okay, you can kind of replace what Cody brings you with different people. But it's going to be a different show without him. It's going to be a much different show without Cody Rhodes.
Yeah. So a few things based on what you said there. I think that Tony Khan's money expedited the process of getting AEW to like national television, the Turner networks, being able to be as big as they are as quickly as they are. And I don't downplay the significance and the importance of Tony Khan for AEW. Like I said, he expedited the process faster than they could have ever done without him. But they did prove with All In that, like, if they wanted to run like a super indie type show, they could have just run shows every handful of months probably without the backing of Tony Khan. And that's why that's why I bring in that's why my mindset is I do not think AEW exists without Cody. Like I think he is the biggest reason AEW exists. As like a standalone, having their own company. Like I said, the Tony Khan stuff and it being specifically AEW, that's kind of another conversation. But when Cody left WWE, it was a mutual thing, obviously, right? Because like he left WWE, he linked up with the Young Bucks, he linked up with Kenny Omega, and the three of them were self-made, stars without needing WWE contracts. Like they were like pretty much the three biggest things outside of the WWE that were like making big money and doing big business. And so I'm not downplaying any of the significance of Kenny and the Bucks. Like I think it takes all of this to happen the way that it did. But like without Cody, I think Kenny and the Bucks probably just continue to have great careers in New Japan and then like eventually probably do sign for big money in the WWE. So, but that all said, it is weird. It's very weird that AEW doesn't have Cody. And to one thing, I mean, obviously I'm a massive fan of his and I'm going to follow him wherever he goes. And that doesn't mean I'm going to turn on AEW. Like AEW, I still think is the best wrestling promotion in the world with or without Cody. But there is a very small part of me that almost feels like he abandoned us, because it's like, you left the company, like you started this revolution, you changed the wrestling business, and like you gave me a product that I love that's way different than what the WWE's been giving me for so long, and now you're going back. It's like, but at the same time, for all we know, Cody's main goal in life right now might be he's got money, they're going to pay him well whether he's in WWE or AEW. Maybe the deciding factor for him, honestly, was like the two things of maybe he really wants to be a booker, and like if AEW is not going to let him do it, WWE is going to pay him a lot of money to go over there and probably work less dates, reduce schedule potentially and stuff, or it's totally possible that like, and this is obviously a speculation, but in my own mind, I think really deep about a lot of this stuff, and like for all I know, Cody's main goal in life right now is to bring a WWE championship belt to Dusty's grave and just be like, Dad, I did it. You know what I mean? Like that could be something that's super important to him, like being the world champion in the WWE, because his dad never got to do it. His brother never got to do it. Like he could be the first Rhodes to hold a world title in the WWE. And that might mean a lot more to him than we realize. So, and then once again, he can always come back to AEW years down the line. Like, it's not like Cody died. People are treating this like Cody's dead. Like, he's just going somewhere else. And that's another thing too. I've heard Brian Alvarez and others talk about it. All these moves have been WWE to AEW over and over and over again. Now there are big spots open in WWE for guys like Cody to be main event level guys. And I also think it's a tip of the cap in Vince's mind going, we got someone from them. And not only do we get someone, we got one of their EVPs. It wasn't just anybody. Like we got one of their top main people in that company. So I think it's also kind of a power play on Vince's part, like showing that like, he isn't just going to sit back. I mean, imagine the Vince McMahon in the late 90s, just sitting back and like letting WCW do their thing until WWE like didn't have fans anymore. Like this, as disconnected as Vince has become in recent years, there's probably still some of him in there going, you know what? I'm not going to just sit back and just let AEW just do what they're doing. Like we're going to fight back and we're going to show people that, why we are the top wrestling promotion, in the history of wrestling.
That first Cody Rhodes, Nick Khan photo is gonna break the internet. I hope they do the middle fingers like Cody and Moxley, man. After they both do that. How crazy, how much would that blow up? Nick Khan and Cody just doing the double bird to whoever's viewing the photo, be the biggest photo in wrestling history. I think for Cody, I think you mentioned that you feel like he kind of abandoned you. And I'd never really thought about that. I'm not like super, super attached to AEW. Obviously, Cody is one of their original guys. But for me, I'm looking at AEW and I think it has just kind of grown past Cody at this point. And that is why the stuff was so detached from everything else everyone was doing on that show. So I thought that AEW had kind of moved past Cody. I never even viewed it as like, oh, he abandoned me. I could certainly see how AEW fans would be like, yeah, fuck him. Like, let him go to WWE. Look, the fans turned on him as it was. Cody could probably feel like the fans abandoned me. Granted, it was that promo that didn't help his cause at all. That was his own doing there. It wasn't just Danielson, Punk, all these guys coming in. But I can see fans not following Cody to WWE, and I can see fans that do follow him almost like hate watching of like, can't wait till Vince buries you. Can't wait until you just, lose in 5 seconds to Austin Theory. And then that's going to be the end of it for Cody.
Don't like that.
I think fans are just they're going to be waiting to dunk on Cody. I'm very interested to see what he's going to do in WWE. I think Cody likes a challenge. And I think that's part of the reason why he's making this move as well, is beyond all the other stuff. In AEW, he's at where he's at, right? Like he's at where he's at. He couldn't challenge for the world title anymore. He could win the TNT title a million times and he could do different stuff, but he was just never going to surpass the level of the Omegas, the Bucks, the Danielsons, the Punks, the Moxleys, because that is what AEW is now. It is, as I said, it is kind of outgrown Cody Rhodes. And now he thinks he can go to WWE and he sees this as a challenge. Like, they didn't let me do what I wanted to do last time. I proved I could be a star. I proved I can do this stuff on my own. I think he's banking. Vince sees that I'm the first real big jump from AEW to WWE. And, this is as you said, a monster jump. This is one of the 4 EVPs. This ain't Brian Cage. No offense to him, but this ain't Brian Cage jumping over. This is Cody fucking Rhodes jumping over here. He sees that and he's like, Vince is he's gonna push me. He's gonna give me this, and like I'm gonna be able to kind of have more than I had and be able to do a little bit more of what I want to do. And even with the WWE restraints, he still views it as a challenge of like, even with those restraints, I'm gonna continue to carve my own path and make my own way. I don't know if he's right or wrong on this. We will let it play out, but this is where I suspect he's at in his head.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you mentioned the fans had turned on him. I think that's a big part of this too, to be honest, is he's sitting there going, all right, y'all want to boo me, and like, you don't want me here, and you're making it really known, like, get Cody off the screen, get Cody off TV. All you people. Yeah, you people.
That's going to be his first promo on WWE, a you people promo.
Well, I'm going to you people, anyone watching this right now. I hope y'all are happy. Hope you feel good about yourself. You bullied Cody out of his own company. You did it. Good job. He's gone. All right. Well, now we'll see how it goes elsewhere, because I also think it's really interesting how many people I've seen that were just trashing Cody the last few months from these WWE Stan accounts. And now they're like, yeah, we got Cody. And it's like, all right, let's see how this goes. Wait, well, I can't wait to see the reaction. Like, if Cody wins the WWE title, like right away, we'll say he becomes a champion, like within like a couple months of being there. What excuses are people going to come up with? Like in AEW, it was he's an EVP and he's got the golden shovel and he's holding people down. He's using his stroke to bury all these people, even though he actually he elevated a lot more people than he didn't when he was there. And you can look at a lot of examples of that. But like, what's the excuse going to be if Cody comes into AEW and wins the world title and he isn't an EVP and he doesn't have any pull like he did in WWE? Maybe Cody's actually just a good professional wrestler at the end of the day. I think people might want to like maybe take that into account that hate on him so much. So, I
mean, look, he had a 5-star match to close his AEW career. I think he had a 5-star match to open his career. Like, I think the Dustin Rhodes was given 5 stars, and I don't put much stock into that rating systems. It's one person's opinion and stuff. I was there for the Sammy match. That match ruled. That was a fantastic, fantastic wrestling match. The Dustin match, one of the best in recent memory, because you throw in the story on top of all of that. It was a great match. Cody had great matches in AEW. I don't think anybody watching Cody in AEW was like, oh, this guy isn't a work rate guy. Like, he had great matches. It was not the matches you have come to expect from, again, like the Kenny Omegas and the Young Bucks and everybody, but he had very good matches and could raise his game to a new level, depending on the Andrade match was fantastic as well. Cody Rhodes proved everything he needed to prove outside of WWE. Now he's going to go back to WWE, and he's got a lot more to prove now, because now he's back in this system of, you failed once, you got put with Stardust, and he did his damnedest to get that thing over. Bless him. But he was what he was, a Stardust. Now he's going in there, different person, different mentality, way different set of circumstances. We will see if he's able to succeed and thrive in what he's able to do. I'm looking forward to it. I think at least for the first little bit, it's going to be good television. There is, of course, a very big part of me who is like, WWE can have the greatest roster of all time, and they're just going to screw it all up. And I do think, honestly, by about month number 1, month number 2, that's probably where it's going to end up. I don't fully trust that they're going to do long-term great with him. But that first month, when he's there and the novelty is there and it's fresh, it's probably going to be really good television.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said. Like, my expectations when it comes to WWE are always very, very low. Like, I'm not going into this expecting like this to turn the entire company around or anything like that, but it at least gives me a reason to get excited about something that they're doing right now. And I'll also mention this just real quick, just to the point of like how shocking everything was and unexpected about him leaving. I talked to a girl who's been training at the Nightmare Factory for the last 2 years or so. And I texted her when the news started, like when Sean's, reports and stuff were coming out. And it was like, I messaged her just saying, like, did they address Cody Rhodes leaving AEW at the Nightmare Factory? And she was like, no, it was a total shocker, but I'm hearing he's going to still be here as our trainer. So it sounds like he's going to keep doing what he's doing with the Nightmare Factory. It's going to be interesting going forward, though, because you see it like with Booker T's Reality of Wrestling, for instance, like there's a lot of talent out of there, but it's looking more and more like Booker T has like that in with the WWE where we're seeing like Roxy there. I could definitely see guys like Mysterious Q and Brian Keith potentially winding up in the WWE eventually. Like, I think Booker T's school kind of has like a link to WWE, but it doesn't mean they can't work AEW by any means. And I feel like Cody, obviously the Nightmare Factory was like a feeder into AEW, but now I feel like it's going to give those wrestlers options where like they could really go either way. It's going to be interesting to see how that works though with like, I mean, the WWE doesn't even want people having their own Twitch and YouTube channels. Like, how are they going to feel if Cody's training wrestlers to go on AEW television? Like, then again, Seth Rollins runs Black and Brave, and like their wrestlers can go do whatever they want. So
I think it'll be okay. Obviously, the Nightmare Factory has big ties to AEW compared to Black and Brave and Reality of Wrestling. But I don't think it'll be too big of a deal. WWE has the Performance Center. If they see somebody that they like out of any of these schools, they'll sign them and they'll bring them to the Performance Center. And if not, they'll let them go to AEW, let them do whatever they want. If anything, Cody's going to be the one with the inside scoops. I'm like, hey, AEW's thinking about signing this person. What do you think? Like, maybe you should snatch him up first. I think this person's really good. And it could lead to bigger issues if they don't sign any of these people.
And last thing I just want to say just really quickly to this point before we get past it, I think not only when it comes to the training is this important, I think it's important when WWE starts courting more AEW wrestlers because their long-term play might not even really be, I mean, Cody's obviously a humongous signing, but their long-term play could very well be, we treat Cody good for the next couple of years. And when MJF and us are negotiating, he hits up Cody and goes, hey, how you getting treated over there? Like, they're telling me they're going to offer me all this stuff. And like, I'd love to be in the locker room with you again. I know you have my back. Like, I mean, this could be a way of down the line getting guys like MJF, getting women like Jade Cargill, who I think Jade is like tailor-made for the WWE. So like, I think that this could be a kind of a, if they treat Cody well, because here was the flip side, right? Back in the day, like Sting wouldn't come to the WWE back in the early 2000s because they saw how they were treating Booker T and like those kind of guys. If Cody comes in there and he's treated like a real star and he doesn't get quote unquote punished like his dad did for doing the same thing he did competing with Vince and all this stuff, if Cody gets treated well, that could be a big sign for like AEW wrestlers that like maybe we will try our luck over in WWE down the line, and if they are going to treat us that way.
And we know Cody like has his guys right in AEW. Wardlow's one of them. Ricky Starks is probably the biggest one. And I don't know Ricky's contract situation, but Ricky is kind of on and off television. I don't know if he's doing anything at the pay-per-view. He is certainly a name where if they see, he's doing well over there with WWE, they have more spots available than AEW right now. They just do because they've released all this talent. They just have more spots available compared to
more
AEW.
money just to spend.
They also have, more money to spend. And if they see Ricky and is like, hey, you know what? He's doing well. Or Ricky sees Cody, is like, he's doing well. Cody's putting in good words and stuff. Ricky could end up there because he is a Cody guy. And Cody has more guys than just Ricky. Ricky is a big one because of the open challenge. He's been on road to the top. That's why I mentioned him specifically. But to Jensen's overall point, if AEW guys do see Cody's doing pretty well over there, it could give them more credence. Hey, let me try my luck over there because right now there's just only so many spots in AEW. And that's what's going to happen when you keep signing all these guys. AEW just brought in Keith Lee. He's obviously going to be a major player for them. Our next topic that we're going to get into seems like Buddy Matthews is coming to AEW as part of House of Black. They teased it last night. Malachi mentioned the history, and then a man who looked pretty similar to Buddy Matthews showed up standing right behind them. Oh yeah, Ricardo, I apologize. I'm going to read the Humper chat because you did leave one on Cody. My fault on that. He said, on Cody, go get paid, bruh, but then don't complain when your bootlicking tastes shitty. You've lost that goodwill. That's
Come on, Ricardo. I'm trying to stay optimistic over here because, like, I just don't want to see Cody get done dirty. Like, I'm just such a fan. Like, it's totally possible. Like, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I'll put it that way.
And Ricardo also says the Fed has a huge opportunity to show AEW talent. They will be treated well. My call is that the Fed will fuck us up in a year or less. You give them a year, like that's good, Ricardo. I give them like 2 months to just make me be like, all right, Cody Rhodes is just a guy. Like that's just how it is.
If it was a bet, we would both easily take the under on a year for that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I would definitely take the under on a year. Guys, you can get your Humper Chats in, humperchats.com. They will get read on air. Sorry, Ricardo, I was flowing. I had a nice transition there with Buddy Matthews and Malachi, but I will get them read. So yes, Buddy Matthews seems like he's coming to AEW as well. And this is an example of they are signing guys and these are great talents. There's no doubt about that. These are top-notch talent. Matthews can go in there and he can have a match with anybody. He's going to be part of House of Black. You can do a bunch of different combinations with them, especially with the Death Triangle, whether it's tag team, whether it's trio stuff. But when you keep signing these guys, slots are being taken from guys who have been there for a while. And some of these guys, sure, they didn't need to be on television. It's okay that they're off for a little bit. Some of these guys, Ricky being an example, should probably be on television weekly.
Yeah. I guess I'm really excited for Buddy Murphy to come in, because it also makes a little more sense where he kind of like when he left the WWE, he had a lot of buzz, right? Everyone was like, man, where's he gonna go? He's like, everyone compares him to Kenny Omega because like their moveset and the way that they wrestle and stuff like that. Everyone really wants to see a match like that, and he had some big matches post WWE, but it was kind of one of those things where I think the big Bud Matt fans out there were all like, where is he? Like, is he coming to AEW? Like, it's got to be a matter of time, right? But like, he isn't there yet. I think they were all getting a little nervous. Like, why isn't he in AEW yet? Like, he has the talent to be. And now it's like, this is AEW picking their spots really well, in my opinion. Like, they do a good job of like debuting people at the right time, I think. And in the way the way the cards have fallen in the House of Black right now, it's like the timing was perfect for Brody Lee to come in because like you knew Ring of Honor was closing shop. He has that link to Malachi, their tag team, PWG tag team champs, all that stuff. And it's like everyone automatically thought like, all right, Brody King's got to be coming in to the House of Black. Like it's going to happen eventually. So it did. And now it's like things are simmering a little bit with them. Like they've got some tag team wins. And now it's like, now is the time to debut Buddy. And I think everything just kind of worked out as it should, I think. And I think he's going to have a really good career in AEW. Like I think he's great in the ring, and that's really all you need in AEW at the end of the day. Like if you can have good matches, like you can have a good career in AEW. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it, and the internet seemed to be pretty excited for it as well. And yeah, how do you feel? Like, do you think this is like a good match? Like having him enter that group like for his debut?
Ricardo says Kenny Omega versus Better Omega is gonna hump. Literally everyone calls him Better Omega. I'm a fan of Buddy Matthews in ring. He's tremendous. This House of Black stuff is not for me. It is just not. I don't care about the tarot cards and whatever he's doing, drinking blood and all this stuff. It is just, it's not for me. I think in the ring, all of these guys are great. I can't wait to see them do these tag matches. I can't wait to see them do these trios matches and whatever singles combinations that they do. This stuff is just not my cup of tea when it comes to Malachi Black. And that is where I'm a little concerned about Buddy Matthews. Is he's going to do this little character here, and then Brody King and all, they're going to just try to keep doing this stuff. I don't know where it's going. I assume Malachi has one plan. We will see if that is how it all plays out, but it's just honestly not for me.
Yeah, I'm not into like the actual like specifics, like you just said, like the tarot cards and like that kind of stuff. Like that's not really for me either. But what I do like about what he's doing is how, it's someone in the chat, Stuart in the chat said lore. I like that they're acknowledging the history in the past of what Malachi did and was like and is outside of WWE and outside of AEW, and like this kind of like the Malachi thing. Obviously his face, when he showed up, it was just like a little bit of stuff on his face, like the makeup or whatever, and now it's like covering like half his face. And I think, you know, that's going to tie into like him and Murphy's history from the WWE, and then, you know, they had the history with Brody King and PWG and whatnot and all that. So it's just like, I understand what they're doing with it, and I do like the visuals of the group when they're in the arena live. Like, I think it's cool how the entrance is cool. They're really well protected in their matches. So I think it's something that let me put it this way. I don't know if you'd agree or not, but I'm more interested in Buddy Matthews coming in doing this, maybe like kind of a darker character as a part of House of Black. I think that sounds a lot more interesting than just like Buddy Matthews being similar to like a Tony Nese type signing, where like he just comes in, not a whole lot going on, has good matches, but like isn't really that featured.
Oh, 100% on that, because they've done that with a lot of people. You mentioned Tony Nese. That's a perfect example. Jay Lethal is another one. Like, they kind of gave Jay Lethal a little something as replacing Lio Rush, but I don't know what their overall plans are for Jay Lethal. I'm much more interested in, okay, cool, bring them in, have a plan to do something with them, instead of just, you're just kind of coming in and you can just have good matches on Dark and things like that. So I 100% agree with you there. It's still just not my cup of tea as to what they're doing with Buddy Matthews. But it's good that they do have a plan with him. Malachi, his face is going to grow to Mojo Rawley level with the lightning bolt looking face. With how it spreads across his face. Like, the matches should be good, right? Like, they're doing Brody and Malachi against Pac and Penta again next week. I assume that's where Buddy makes his debut. I don't know what the timetable is on Phoenix. I know it looked terrible, but it seems like he's going to be back sooner rather than later. Those trio matches will be great. Like, give me Buddy against Phoenix one-on-one whenever Phoenix is healthy. Give me Buddy against Pac one-on-one. Like, all of these matches are going to be great. I'm more interested in the matches and then where it's all going, because right now I don't really care for it. If it leads to something great and there is a long-term plan of like, hey, this is what's going to happen, cool. I don't know how long you can kind of keep up. Brody King, when he was on Talk is Jericho, he compared it to like Ministry of Darkness, Undertaker. And like, for me, that kind of got old really fast. And that Undertaker was done because of he was kind of limited in the ring by that point. So he just did this character. But like, that stuff got very old, and then it got very convoluted. And I don't need that in AEW, especially with how good these guys are in the ring. I just don't need a Ministry of Darkness group in AEW.
See, and I'll actually differ with that. Oh, someone's waving to me from outside. They got a little Yorkshire Terrier walking their dog.
There you go.
They got so many Yorkies around. I love little Yorkies. They're the best. But yeah. So anyways, I actually love the Ministry of Darkness. So like, I thought that was the best version of the Undertaker. Like, I loved that, the theme song, the whole thing.
The theme was great.
But then it got convoluted when like the corporate ministry became a thing and Vince got involved and all that. But like, the original ministry, I did like the concept of. But that also being said, Tony Khan definitely, I mean, obviously he's paying attention to what the fans want to see. So I think at the end of the day, like once we get Buddy Matthews and Omega, like that's just going to be like a huge win for the wrestling community, I think. So like if nothing else comes of Buddy Matthews being in AEW, I guarantee you we get him and Omega at some point soon. And like then Tony will give the fans what we've wanted to see with that. So
I would hope so. As we kind of learned with Cody is you don't know how quickly things are going to change because they left a lot of Cody matches on the table, probably thinking that he was going to be around for the long term. And we didn't get a lot of stuff we could have easily gotten with Cody.
There are still way more dream matches for Cody in AEW than WWE, like way more.
Yeah.
Like, 100%. I mean, it's Sting and Cody alone. I am appalled that we didn't get that match in AEW. Like that was such a home run, slam dunk, should have happened. Because in WWE, as excited as I am to see what he does there, honestly, the only person I'm really like excited to see him wrestle is Roman. Like, and maybe Brock, even though I don't think he would beat Brock. I think he has a chance of maybe beating Roman, but Roman would probably get the win back. I think Brock would just suplex City him to oblivion. He'd treat it like the John Moxley WrestleMania match and just destroy him probably.
I could 100% see Brock reacting to Cody like that. I don't know if Brock's going to be up for some of the stuff Cody might want to do. You're like, no, this is what we're doing, pal. Like, you got to bump around for me. I ain't doing too much. Because Brock, when he wants to be, tremendous, one of the best. But when he doesn't want to be, you get the Dean Ambrose, John Moxley WrestleMania match. JJ says
super chats. So yeah.
Yes.
Thanks.
JJ says Josh Alexander stays or goes. I think he ends up staying with Impact, but it is a little disconcerting that nothing was sort of worked out between them, and his visa has now expired. The visa is the biggest thing more than the contract.
Yeah. I mean, I hope. Honestly, I say I hope he stays in Impact because he has unfinished business there. Like they're still mid storyline right now with him, becoming the world champion again. So, but this is such an Impact thing. I hate to say it, but they do this all the time. Like they wait way too long to actually push the right people. And then by the time they've actually pushed them, their contracts are up and they leave.
If they did that entire Josh Alexander story and then they did the Moose angle to get their heat and that was the end and Alexander doesn't win the title ever again, just a complete bad faith move. And I know people at the time even said, oh, it's because his contract's going to be up. It's because his contract's going to be up. It's like, okay, you could still give him a run with that title before his contract expires. You don't have to screw him out of the belt 2 seconds after he wins it with his family in the ring and stuff.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, it's like he had an X Division title run for like the better part of a year, I want to say. So like you could have just done that with the world title. Like why are you waiting so long to push the wrestlers? Because here's the thing with Impact is like, do I think Moose is a good champion for Impact? Sure. Like I like Moose. I like Moose a lot more than most people probably do as a professional wrestler, or at least like the progress he's made in recent years has been impressive to me. He's gotten a lot better. And he looks like a pro wrestler, but it's one of these things where it's like, they do this so often and they're going to wind up in the same position with guys like Chris Bay and Ace Austin and these kind of guys when their contracts are coming up, because they, for whatever reason, they have this mindset of like, we don't want to push. We're going to keep going back to what's safe. We'll keep going back to Eddie Edwards, Sami Callihan, like these kind of guys who we know aren't going anywhere ever. But it's like, how many people are you losing because you aren't pushing them? And by the time you do, it's too late. Like if I'm Impact, I'm taking the risk of, well, yeah, there's a possibility if we push them and they become big stars when their contract's up. Now we've raised their market value and they're going to, leave and be bigger stars somewhere else. I mean, there's always a fear of that, but you're guaranteeing this happening over and over again. The only person, I mean, Moose has outside of the ring stuff that prevents him from probably going other places, but Jordynne Grace stayed. I was shocked that she stayed. But I'm happy for her because I think Jordynne Grace rules, but they don't even do that much with her on the show. Like she should be featured. We talked about it here on the show. She should be featured in like the world title mix with like the actual main world championship. She's that good. And it's like, they just keep doing this over and over and over again. They're afraid to push people because they're afraid they're going to leave. But it's like, don't you think there's a better chance of people maybe staying if they are pushed for a longer time? Like if you've been pushing Ace Austin this entire time, and he's already been a world champion by now, and he's consistently a main eventer, I think there's a better chance of him staying with the company than you going, all right, Ace Austin's contract comes up in 6 months. Let's go and put the title on him now. And then he's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I finally got it. It was way too late. I'm still going to leave. Like that's just how I feel about him. It's like a carousel of them just doing this with people over and over and over. And Josh Alexander is just a perfect example of it. You waited forever to put the world title on him. You finally did it. It was 1 minute long title reign. And now it's like, if AEW is calling, like, why wouldn't he entertain going somewhere else? Like, if that's how, like, that was the peak for him in Impact up to this point, was a 1 minute long world title reign. Like, after like a year of carrying the company as X Division champion, like, I mean, I don't know. They just keep doing it to themselves.
And I don't get it. Ace Austin is a perfect example of this. Of, like you said, is they probably got a better chance of staying if you actually like push these guys instead of, hey, we're worried you leave, so we're afraid to do anything with you. And I understand guys come in, guys take spots and stuff. We mentioned AEW, like they're bringing in Bryan Danielson and CM Punk. Those guys, they're going to take these spots. W. Morrissey, probably not a guy that should be in your main event picture taking these spots over some of your younger talent. That's just me.
Yeah. When anyone who thinks this is a work, I get that, because I see that too, but I don't think he's doing that. And then, like, because if he's not with Impact and his visa expires basically because of that, he's not intentionally like be pulling out a terminus and stuff. Like, there's no way they're advertising him for things, and he's like, oh, we're going to really work the fans who have bought tickets to Terminus. Like, and I'm not going to come anymore just for an Impact story. I don't buy that at all. Yeah.
That when he started pulling out of events, that's when it was like, oh, I don't know about this. And I know like they got No Surrender this weekend. And so it's possible he shows up there and then he can still make the indie dates because it is a work. That's an elaborate work. And, you know, bless them if that's the route they're going with this stuff.
By the way, me and Denise Salcedo this Saturday, No Surrender post show, right here on Fightful, this channel. So
there you go. Alan Mark says, as I understand, Malachi Black had a complete story written when he approached TK with it. I know he said that. Again, plans can very easily change, with that stuff. But I'm sure Malachi does have it all written out of where he wants to go with it. But again, plans change. Let's move on to WWE. We spent 42 minutes on AEW, and then we even did Impact. We have more Impact talk coming up, and JJ derails us with Impact talk. WWE, your WWE spotlight for this week, Jensen.
My WWE spotlight is the question that I've really been wrestling in my own mind. When Cody goes to WWE, will Cody gain control of NXT 2.0 and then turn it into his vision of NXT 3.0, but then work it into his contract that since he's there and they have the rights, he turns NXT into WCW?
I'm for this. Let's do it. Let's just turn NXT into WCW. I mean, they had to give back the trademarks, but Cody has those trademarks, right? Like,
yeah,
he actually has the Slamboree and all those trademarks. Like, they tried to do it. Like, so, Joe Pearl says World Cody Wrestling.
I love it. I love that, Joel. I love that. Me and Joel later tonight, Fightful Gaming, Twitch, 7 Eastern.
All right, I am fine. I'm fine with Cody. I said it before. Like, Cody is Vince McMahon's favorite son now. He is gonna hand NXT over to Cody. He's like, look, my dipshit son-in-law couldn't do anything with it. It's all yours. I trust you more than I trust him. I like it. Yes. I like it.
Now my real spotlight this week is actually Stone Cold Steve Austin. It sounds like he's gonna come back to the ring and he might be wrestling Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. So yeah, that's my spotlight. I think that's pretty crazy. I mean, that kind of ties in with the Cody conversation of they have a lot of money that they can spend. They have a lot of open spots. They don't have a lot of stars. They have one full-time star in Roman Reigns, and they have 2 way bigger stars that aren't there all the time, in Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey. Steve Austin wrestling for the first time in 19-20 years in Texas. They got to put butts in those seats 2 nights of WrestleMania in Jerry World in Dallas. So, like, how do you feel about this, Jeremy? Steve Austin 20 years later in the ring against potentially Kevin Owens.
Steve Austin, my favorite wrestler of all time. I grew up during the Attitude Era and loved everything Austin did. I got a million Steve Austin action figures and shirts and just all the Austin merchandise memorabilia. Do I need to see him wrestle again? Absolutely not. Not 20 years later. I thought he had a perfect final match. He concluded the trilogy, the Mania trilogy, with The Rock. Was it the best technical match ever? Absolutely no. But it told a great story. And people forget that like it was his last match because it wasn't made a big deal of out of the time. It was just he was done and that was it. And I know he came back for a bunch of stints and did a bunch of stuff, but he has such a great final match. And I don't think he's going to go out there and shit the bed against Kevin Owens or anything. It's pretty tough to have a match or a bad match against Kevin Owens, especially the kind of match like they'll probably have. It'll be punches, Luthez press, stunner, mud hole stomps, things like that. It ain't going to be this work rate match. That was never Austin, especially after the neck injury. But I don't need to see it. I really do not need to see the return of Stone Cold wrestling, even if it is against Kevin Owens. And I think they can tell a great story. And Owens has already started telling this story with taking the shots at Texas. Like, I think they can tell a great story. I think they would have a perfectly acceptable wrestling match. It is not a match I need to see.
Yeah, I feel the same way. But I get why they're doing it. It totally makes sense why they're doing it. It is a bummer though, like that all these years, right? And he did have a great last match and he lost to The Rock, and no one knew it was his last match. You know, that was watching it. I remember watching that live inside of a US Play. Remember US Play? Like it was like a bowling alley and like arcade. They used to show. When I was younger, I used to have to go watch the WWF pay-per-views in places called US Play, and I'd go to Hooters also because they used to show the pay-per-views at Hooters. So I'm a very loyal fan. I watch the pay-per-views out in public with random fans and stuff, eating hot wings. But that was a great send-off. And for all these years, for the last 20 years, Steve Austin has been saying consistently, like, the bug is gone. I don't want to come back. I had a good end of my career. I'm fine riding off to the sunset. It took him years to like kind of like wean off the adrenaline rush needs that he got from wrestling. Like he found other passions that he enjoyed. And I think his podcast, you know, he's a really, really good does a great job of like interviewing people. So anyways, but it's like one of those things where I love Kevin Owens, but like, damn, like if he was going to come back, if there was a chance this whole time. Like we missed him in Cena and Cena's prime. We missed him in Punk when Punk exploded in like the 2010s. I mean, there's all these dream matches that were like, in my opinion, way bigger than Austin coming back to wrestle Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
But that said, it also makes a lot more sense why Kevin Owens probably resigned with the company now, because people were so convinced he was leaving WWE. But what if during negotiations, they're like, hey, we're going to give you all this money to stay, plus we're going to get you Austin at WrestleMania. He's like, yeah, I'm staying. You know what I mean? Like, I get that at that point. Same with Sami Zayn. Like, people can knock the whole Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville stuff all they want, but like, this gets Sami Zayn's name out there to the mainstream, and in a way that he doesn't have to go back to the indies and do the stuff he did as El Generico to get over in the ring. He can do hardly anything and just be like a character on WWE and get paid millions of dollars. So like, I think this is a part of the of all of this is like, it makes a lot more sense now why Owens would probably want to stay outside of the money, you know, obviously. And then Austin, like, I don't need to see it. Like, I'm fine with never seeing Austin wrestle again, but I'm not going to lie. It's the same kind of thing as like when it's different, but the same in a way. It's like Bill Goldberg, right? Like, I knocked Bill Goldberg for coming back over and over and over again. But every time I see him actually doing his entrance for a match, my mind goes back to 1998, Steven, WCW mega fan in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm just like, Goldberg, gold. And I get into it for like 3 minutes. You know what I mean? Steve Austin.
That's all the match lasts anyways.
You're right, exactly. That's all it needs. Him and Roman's going to be like 5 minutes, like that maximum.
They're going to do the stupid spear barricade spot. Take a shot when they do that. Down whatever you're drinking when they do the dumb barricade spot.
Yeah. And I just don't want to see Austin come back and be like a lesser version of himself. Like we can't expect him to be.
He's damn near 60, son. He's going to be a lesser version of himself.
But I'm just saying, like, as long as he can do the things that you said, he can stomp a mud hole on someone in the corner. He might not even be able to do a Lou Threads press. I don't know how his knees are and his hips are. I have no idea. But if he can just at least do one stunner, and that's the thing with this too, is I expect it to be a match. But even if, I'll really put it this way. I see some people saying, well, it might just be a segment at WrestleMania where Owens comes out, he's talking trash about Texas, Austin comes out, hits him with some stunners, and like the crowd goes crazy. But my mindset is, if he's able to do that, just promote an actual match between the two of them, even if it's Austin winning in 3 minutes with 5 stunners on a row or whatever. Like, at least then Austin can go, I won my last match. I came back. I got that feeling one more time. I just don't want to see it become a Goldberg type thing, even though I just kind of praise Goldberg just then. I'm not of the camp of people who want to see Goldberg on the show anymore, but I don't want to see that happen to Austin. I don't want to see it where like now we see Austin like 4 times a year come out and like barely can move. And like, I just don't want to see it come to that, but I would love to see Austin come back to WrestleMania, look good, look healthy, do the stuff we remember he can do. I don't know if he can still do the double birds or not, because it's PG. Don't know if he can drink beer or not, because it's PG, but like, if we get a real taste of like the Steve Austin that never got to like really, because that was the other thing about his retirement. It was cool that we didn't know, but at the same time, it's also really nice like when you do know it's someone's last match and you can like really send them off and like give them a real tribute as fans. So like maybe that we can kind of do that with Austin for WrestleMania this year.
And maybe that's how they would treat it. It would obviously be a big send-off. I'm with you. I don't need to see Steve Austin. I don't need to see him in this match. I definitely don't need to see him past this match either. My thing with Austin is like, I don't think he needs to win either. Like if he's going to face Kevin Owens, I would have Owens win that match. WWE never does that.
I would say that I don't think there's any chance, but it would help. It would help Owens a whole lot. It
would help Owens. I could maybe see Austin pushing for it as well, because Austin likes Owens. He gave him the stunner. Owens asked for permission to use that, and he got it from Austin. So he likes Owens. It is Austin, who is a notorious businessman when it comes to this stuff, and looks at like, okay, what's the best play here? Does he look at this like, oh yeah, me going in here and beating Kevin Owens, this really helps everybody? Like, I feel like Austin, at least old Stone Cold, maybe this Stone Cold is like, who gives a shit? They want me to win. I'll win, whatever. But I feel like old Stone Cold would be like, no, like, why would I come in here and beat this man who is the full-time guy, and I'm just coming in here for one match? It ain't going to hurt Austin to lose. No one's going to be like, they buried Steve Austin. Like, no one's going to say anything about that. Like, I think Owens should win this match if they do it. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, as a as a Kevin Owens fan, I agree with you. I just don't. And as a Steve Austin fan, I agree with you. I just don't see that happening. I mean, did Owens even win his feuds with like Shane and stuff when they did that?
He technically did, because he beat Shane in that ladder match on the first Fox show, and then
and he headbutted Vince too.
Yeah, he headbutted Vince, and I mean, then Shane eliminated him from the Rumble this year, which went over really well.
The funniest thing ever was it me and you talking about that? I legitimately was like laughing until I couldn't breathe when someone mentioned to me that Shane McMahon had written himself in the Royal Rumble to outbox Matt Riddle. And I was like, oh my God, that's the funny. I was laughing so hard. But yeah, I mean, I'll put it this way. Is it probably the right thing to do to have for the future of the business, especially for Kevin Owens? Yeah, like it would be great if they really put him in a position to like really be a top guy there, because they need more top guys. He had the Universal title, but when he did, it was really more about him and Jericho, and he was kind of like an afterthought.
And then he lost in 2 seconds to Goldberg. So.
And then he lost in 2 seconds to Goldberg. You're right. So I'm a big Owens fan. I was a big Kevin Steen fan pre-WWE. As a matter of fact, Kevin Owens is my favorite NXT champion ever. Like, I love that era of NXT when he came in. I'm a massive fan. And for him, I think it would be great to see him beat Austin. I just don't see them doing it. I think Austin comes in and just squashes him.
And that's probably what they'll end up doing. I think the better move would just have Kevin Owens win. At some point, you've got to have one of these guys win. And I'm not talking Roman, because Roman's their top guy and he's always going to win these nostalgia matches and whatnot. But like, at some point, just put somebody over in one of these matches. And I do think the Austin of old, Austin of old, if he's out there and then Hogan comes back and is doing a one-time match, and Austin of old's like, wait a second, you're gonna have Hulk just beat me like this? I don't think so. Like, I'm going over in this match. It's better business if I go over. So we will see with that. And look, I'm not happy if this match happens. I'm not going to be like, I don't want to see it. I don't need to see this man wrestle at his age. Am I going to pop like hell when that glass shatters? Yeah, 100%. I'm going to be like Stephen Jensen on the couch, throwing up the arms, throwing up the birds, drinking the Dr. Pepper on the couch and everything, getting the sofa all ruined and whatnot. I'm going to stun all the kids, go around just dishing out the stunners to all the kids. Have a party when that glass shatters and he's making that walk to the ring.
Hell yeah.
Jorge Sandoval says, pretty crazy how much of a W this Cody thing is in the eyes of WWE against a company who apparently isn't competition. I mean, come on. We all know they're competition.
Yeah,
that's just
absolutely.
No matter
absolutely.
what they say. My WWE spotlight is Brock Lesnar and this interview he did with Pat McAfee, because Brock Lesnar doesn't do a lot of interviews, especially like very public ones like this. What a tremendous man this guy is. He was telling stories. My favorite story of the whole thing we were talking about where he's fighting his brothers. And he's like, yeah, they would pick on me. And then I got big enough. I'd kick the shit out of them. My parents would sit back in the sofa, drink a beer and be like, had it coming. What can you do? He's talking about anxiety, how he's like, just leave me the fuck alone. He was talking about his relationship with Vince and Dana. He was talking about, he's in the business of making money and he's going to stop when those dollar bills stop, y'all. Just what a character this man is. And I think a lot of people like always kind of knew it and saw it because it would come through every now and again on television. But because of Paul Heyman always talking and everything, it wasn't always as prevalent as it is now, where he's doing his own talking and he's a babyface. This interview just really showed like who Brock Lesnar like really is. And what a guy Brock Lesnar.
Dude, what an interview too. I mean, I watched that whole thing and I was like, part of me is like, WWE's had this guy for 2 decades. And like, you could have done so much more if we knew he had this kind of personality. Like, he's been pretty much the same guy up until recently with his like, he's really never been a baby face outside of like the short run early 2000s when Heyman turned on him back then for Big Show. Outside of that, like, he's pretty much always been the heel and like quiet, and other people talk for him and he just beats people up. But what I like so much about that interview is he's like, yeah, everyone knows the story of him, leaving WWE initially, and he didn't really love pro wrestling and the travel and all that stuff. But now he's like, man, I love doing this. He's like, and what else would I do? Like, I sit around and I do my farming and I work hard and I hang out with my kids and stuff. But like, if I wasn't doing pro wrestling, what else would I really be doing? He can fight in the octagon and stuff too. And I loved hearing him talk about kind of the similarities and differences of like Vince and Dana, kind of like the difference in negotiating. And he really sees Vince as like a father figure and Dana more as like a guy he can go make money with and make money from, kind of thing. And I thought it was an incredible interview. It was really peeling back a layer to Brock where I want more of that guy. Like that was a fantastic interview. And he's out there doing Steve Austin impressions. Like,
oh, what? He's flexing. He's like, what?
Yeah, it was so good.
Damn, son.
So yeah, I mean, and that's also partly, I'm sure, due to the respect he has for McAfee, because there's also like a different level of respect I think Brock has for guys that are like also pro athletes and like, treat him a certain way and stuff like that. And he gave McAfee props and said, you're the best thing about SmackDown. Just hearing you basically mark out on commentary like makes the show. So like Brock was really complimentary, and it was a great interview. I'd highly recommend anyone listen to it that didn't. It was like an hour long, but it was totally worth it.
I don't watch McAfee's show all the time, but I watch the WWE interviews when he has WWE people on. And he's great because, one, he is in the business. He is a commentator on SmackDown. 2, he is a former athlete as an NFL punter. And 3, like, he is just a fan of this stuff. And that obviously comes across on SmackDown, but he is just a complete fan of this stuff. And so he can just go in there and just kind of bullshit with the guys and talk to them when they're on their shows. If you listen to a lot of these WWE interview podcasts and stuff, I listen to a ton of them. You can tell a difference between, even if it's like a WWE oriented podcast, like Take After the Bell, for example, there are certain restrictions that just like, it doesn't feel like the most comfortable thing. It feels very cookie cutter of what they're talking about and stuff. McAfee is so laid back and so like just doesn't give a fuck, because McAfee has said it himself, like, I don't need the money to do this. I like having fun doing this. And so he is so laid back and can make everybody feel comfortable. You can really see kind of true personality come out on these guys more than your typical like cookie cutter interview with any other WWE personality. So I think they should put more wrestlers on Pat McAfee's show. One, because it does a lot of good viewership from everything that I've seen. And two, you can get to see more of the personality with these guys on it. So I think Pat McAfee's a tremendous interviewer. His show, from the stuff that I have seen, seems very entertaining. And this Brock Lesnar interview was just like peak stuff this week. So good that I didn't even care what happened on WWE television. This was the best thing of the week in WWE for me, is watching this Brock Lesnar interview.
Yeah. I very much enjoyed it. There was something I had on the tip of my tongue and I just lost it. What was I about to say about this interview in this show? I know it'll come back to me. But yeah, so do you think they should use this more, like this personality that Brock has, like just more on TV? Like, I mean, he's shown that he's like a hilarious guy.
They're starting to do it a little bit more because Heyman's not there to talk to him or talk for him. So they're definitely starting to do it more. It is just like you said, though, they've had this guy forever. And like, they're just now getting around to doing this. It's very similar to the Roman thing of like, they've had this Roman Reigns forever. And like, they're just now making it in this like heel killer persona when people wanted it for years. I don't think that Brock has, I don't think that many people knew that like Brock had this in him. Like, we sort of knew Roman always had this heel character in him. But they should have known that Brock had this in him based on just being around him this much. And it never happened. But Brock was tremendous in this, and now he's going to win the title at Elimination Chamber. And people,
I agree. I think he's winning the title back this Saturday. And what I was going to say, it just came back to me, was with the McAfee show. I think they continue to use it to progress stories, because it was a great tool for him and Adam Cole in NXT. Yeah. I mean, that was. And by the way, I'll say it: Pat McAfee is the best celebrity pro wrestler I've ever seen in my life. Like, he killed it in his match with Adam Cole, and then that War Games match. Like, so he deserves a lot of credit for a lot of the stuff he's doing. I think he's a terrible professional wrestling commentator. Like, I think he's terrible. But but I think he's perfect what the WWE needs in commentary. Okay. Like, for the same way that, like, my favorite commentary team of all time, non-ironically, like, I'm not joking about this, people always think I'm joking. My favorite commentary team in wrestling history is Mike Tenay and Don West in TNA. Like, sure. Because you had the professor, Mike Tenay, who's like keeping you in the loop of what's going on, the stories, the backgrounds, the moves, all that kind of stuff. And you had Don West just marking out next to him as a fan. And that's what McAfee brings to the table. He brings a level of fandom and excitement that you just don't get from the cookie cutter kind of people, the generic type announcers that they kind of produce in the WWE. And as long as he has a guy like Michael Cole next to him that can continue to be kind of like the straight man next to him and keep the sports aspect of it going, I love seeing McAfee up there and rocking out to Nakamura's theme song and like just marking out, like, because I think that translates to the fans that are watching the show, going like, he's having a blast watching this show, and I'm having a blast listening to him have a blast. Like, I think it's infectious.
And that's very fair. Michael Cole is so polished and so buttoned up and technically great, especially in the WWE universe, that McAfee does bring, and Cole has said it, like, he brings a different energy that Corey Graves, just a lot of times he's just trying to get his stuff in. He likes to needle a little bit. It doesn't always come off as authentic as maybe they would hope it to be. McAfee, very authentic when he's sitting next to Michael Cole. And Michael Cole feels very rejuvenated as well. Now, I think McAfee's actually also just a good pro wrestling commentator because he is such a fan of it, and he's not so polished and buttoned up. And that, especially in the WWE universe, like, that makes me like him a lot more when it comes to his commentary.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, we both like him. We both like that. Yes. He is the commentator. I just don't think he's like a great, like, it's hard to explain how I feel about it. Like, when I listen to him talk, I'm like,
a hater.
He might not fully understand what he's saying, or like there's this little disconnect in what he says.
He's on a bunch of edibles, Jensen. Come on now, we can both relate to that.
I respect that. I respect that. So
of course he's not forming actual thoughts.
I'm a
McAfee just popped another edible.
I watch the dude's show often on YouTube. So the Pat McAfee show. So like I'm a fan. I'm just saying, like, and my point is you don't have to be one of these Michael Cole, Tom Phillips type guys. Like, even though those guys are great at what they do, you don't have to be that mold. You can be a Don West, you can be a Pat McAfee, and just be really, really enthusiastic and really love what you're watching. And I think that there's a spot for that. So
fair. Let's move on to our other spotlight. Jensen, I'll throw to you. What do you have in the other category this week?
My other category. So this week, I got to raise the question that I'm sure a lot of fans are asking themselves right now. Will Cody Rhodes and Conrad Thompson purchase Ring of Honor?
Probably. I mean, Cody's got plenty of money. Conrad's got plenty of money. If Sinclair's selling, even if they're not selling, feels like they should, right? Like Code of Honor?
Code of Honor.
It's right there.
Bring
like,
back the ring.
Roads of Honor? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all there.
I love the idea. I mean, you can team up with Bischoff and Jarrett, and they can do whatever. They can collectively buy Ring of Honor, NWA, MLW, all of it. Buy it all. Impact. My real other category this week is actually from Major League Wrestling. We haven't talked about them a whole lot on this show, so I figured I'd show them some love this week. And my choice is Alicia Atout and Richard Holliday turned heel this past episode of MLW Fusion. And Atout was basically doing Hammerstone had just won a match. She was announcing him as the winner, gave Hammerstone a low blow. Her and Holliday beat up the MLW champion Hammerstone. And then Holliday holds the title up above his head, and him and Atout are making out and stuff. So my spotlight this week is the heel turns of Atout and Holliday, because in storyline, Holliday is the best friend of Hammerstone. So this was like a big betrayal there. So it was the heel turn, Atout and Holliday together on screen. And then do you think that Richard Holliday could potentially be the next MLW champion? Does he beat Hammerstone for the belt?
I like Richard Holliday. I love the character. I don't even know how much it is as a character, but I love it. I love the personality. Alicia Atout, I never saw her as like a managerial type role. So the fact that she's actually in this role is surprising to me. I need a little bit more time with that because I'm so used to her just doing interviews and being that person, whether it's on screen, like on MLW television, or doing interviews like on her own channel. It'd very much be like if Denise just became a manager on somebody's programming, it would be very weird to me because I'm so used to seeing Denise. Okay, she's a ring announcer. I get that. She's doing backstage interviews. She's doing commentary. She's doing interviews on her channel. She's a personality and stuff. To see her on television as like a character would be very weird for me. And that's how I feel about Alicia because I'm so used to seeing her one way. So I need a little bit more time to see how that sort of plays out. I don't see Holliday being the one to dethrone Hammerstone. I think it's a good story between those two. I just don't see that. I don't think they're going that far with Holliday. It's a good direction to do Holliday and Hammerstone and add a new dimension to the Holliday character. I feel like Hammerstone, because like they did the long title reign with Fatu and then he beat Fatu. I feel like it's going to be sort of a bigger name before Hammerstone gets dethroned. And it almost feels like they're setting that up for Cross. I think Cross is the one to honestly dethrone him because I'm not sure Cross is going elsewhere. And so MLW just might be where he makes his hay. And I could definitely see them strapping up Karrion Kross.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. Mainly the last point you just made, that I don't see Killer Kross being like, I know he's a big name in wrestling, but I don't see him being like super like courted right now by like AEW or anywhere else. Like I think MLW is probably going to be his main spot for a minute. And I'm sure he'll do like Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, maybe some GCW, that kind of stuff. But like, that was really the only thing I wanted to bring up with it. I thought it was a cool thing to see Alicia get more involved. I've always liked her as a commentator or as an interviewer. I think she's done really good on the indies. Like years back, she had some really good interviews with MJF, that MJF stayed in character, and really, really good stuff. And I don't think that Holliday is going to defeat Hammerstone either. And I do think Killer Cross probably, if it was someone on like their current roster, I'd love to see a guy like Calvin Tankman get the title.
Yes.
But I could totally see Killer Cross coming in, and he matches up like physically really well with Hammerstone too. Like on like a poster, like the two of them in front of each other, like two big dudes look like they're going to kick each other's asses. Like, so yeah. And also just really quickly, I wanted to bring this up. This wasn't my spotlight this week because we have talked about him so much and we've already pretty much talked about all of this, but shout out to Matt Cardona for actually winning the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, because we talked about it a lot last week, and now we'll see what he does as the champion. But he did win the title on a non-televised event, a pre-taped show. So I just wanted to shout that out real quick, because I have not forgotten. We've talked about that a lot, but me and Jeremy, if you want our thoughts on that last week, we basically came up with all the scenarios of like why they should put the title on him and all that stuff. So
I mean, then he went to Paris. He went to Disney Paris after he won the title. It got buzz, like it did. I still think it probably should have been like a live show, but it created what the buzz they're looking for. We'll see if it helps out their YouTube or Fight TV numbers. But it was the right call to put the belt on him, even if I'm not a huge fan of doing it on the taped show.
Sure. What was your spotlight this week for our other category?
My spotlight for other is we're finally getting the match years in the making. The Guerrillas of Destiny against the Good Brothers at Impact No Surrender. Like, do I think this is going to be a great match? Probably not. I'm not. I like Tama Tonga's work for the most part. Tangaloa, like Doc Gallows is going to take 2 bumps. Carl Anderson, obviously a great wrestler, but I don't know if this is like out of these 4, especially. Like he's definitely going to have to be the workhorse in this one. I'm more just focused on we're finally getting this match because it feels like it's been teased for so long. And it plays into sort of what we talked about last week is FTR and Briscoes teased for so long. When is that going to happen? Who knows? We're finally getting GOD against Good Brothers. I don't know how good it's going to be. The Good Brothers, I feel like, have been the Impact champions, Impact Tag Team champions for 3 years now, even though they've only been with the company for less than 2. They've defended the titles like maybe once, but we're getting this match. They appeared at New Japan Strong, again, about 2 years ago, and it seemed like it was going to set up. Never quite came to fruition. We've had the Bullet Club sniping with AEW involved, Kenny Omega and Young Bucks being involved. It feels like this match should be bigger, and it's just on Impact No Surrender. And I hate to kind of like put Impact where it's at in the pecking order, but Impact is where it's at in the pecking order. And this match probably doesn't feel as big as it should. And it's not totally Impact's fault. It's also they waited so long to do this. It felt like it was at its hottest last year when Kenta had just come in, and Tama Tonga was taking shots at everybody on his podcast and on Twitter, and the Good Brothers were still involved in AEW, and now it is where it's at. Yeah,
I agree. I agree with all of that. And it also gets extra convoluted because Violent by Design is involved in this story also. So like it just hasn't had the buzz that this should have had, something like this. And I'll also say this is off topic, but it's on topic, but off topic. All right, listen, a lot of people were talking about me last week when I shaved my face, and you can see a lot, and my beard's coming back.
It's going back very well in a week.
Pretty much good to go. If you want to give me thoughts on my beard and all that stuff in the chat, feel free. But the reason I bring this up is because I don't know what the hell Tama Tonga was thinking when he shaved his beard and cut his hair.
Weird.
Well, and here's the thing, like, I'm sure it's comfortable, and like, I'm not going to hate on someone for just like, changing it up or whatever, but like, he looked like a pro wrestling superstar the way he looked before. And now he just looks like a regular dude that you just like see at Publix. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like, I'm like, why would you, like, so much of what made you so like marketable was your look, and now you look totally different, but like just a lot lamer. But also shout out to him getting, he got a new contract with New Japan. Good for him. And honestly, as far as predictions, like, I think that Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa will probably win the Impact Tag titles just because why not? Like, at least it's something different.
I think it's non-title.
Is it non-title?
I feel.
Let's look this up real quick, Jeremy.
Okay. Look at them.
No
For some reason,
Surrender
I feel like it's
2022.
non-title.
Because I think part of the story is definitely that they're kicking them out of Bullet Club if they win, kind of thing. No, it's for the World Tag Team Championships.
Oh, okay. I just assumed that God or that Bullet Club wasn't defending the titles. Good Brothers just weren't going to defend the titles because it feels like they never defend the titles.
Yeah. So, that's true. And that's kind of to my point is like, look, I'm not going to trash talk Gallows and Anderson. I think they're good dudes. They're really funny. I love talking Shop-A-Mania shows and all that stuff, but like they have done nothing for their buzz of Impact Wrestling with or without the titles. Like they're very generic in the ring. Their matches aren't particularly exciting. And I think this match will be probably pretty good, but I think it's just probably a better idea just to put the titles on GOD because like at least it's because like really nothing's happening with them with the Good Brothers being the tag champions. You know what I mean? Like maybe they can make something more interesting happen with GOD as the champions, and then Good Brothers have to like beat them to like maybe almost keep their jobs kind of thing. I don't know, but I feel like there's way more possibilities with Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa as the champions right now than Gallows and Anderson. That's just me personally.
I agree. I think that they might put the titles on God and then do a rematch at Rebellion. I don't know. I don't think anybody still knows what the Japanese situation is. I know there were plans of those belts being defended over in Japan. I think when Finjuice had them, like Scott D'Amore mentioned, they're going to defend them in Japan, and then they never defended them in Japan. So that didn't work out. Obviously, the Good Brothers want to go to Japan, return to Japan at some point. Them being Impact Tag Team Champions would help Impact in some way. I feel like you could do a title switch here and then run it back in April. Is that stretching it out too long again? Maybe. We'll see. But I just think that the Good Brothers are gonna hold on to the belts. I don't think I'd even try to do the rematch, honestly. Just do it here, and then whatever Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. I think Japanese restrictions are lifting a little bit March 1st with when it comes to travel. So maybe they head back to Japan. The situation with Japan makes things a little bit difficult because you don't know how long people are going to be around in certain companies. But it just feels like the Good Brothers are probably just going to retain the titles here.
Yeah. Cool. So I've got GOD, you got Good Brothers, but either way, unfortunately, there just isn't a lot of buzz like this should have. So
yeah.
If you want to hit about to actually ask about that super chat. Perfect.
Yep. Throwback says, do you guys see NXT title on Mania Night 1? Do you think there's a possibility that we have Ziggler versus Breaker on that card to fill a match spot? Ciampa versus Ziggler is the takeover match. I don't think they're going to have the NXT title on Night 1. I think now that it is NXT 2.0 and it does feel more connected with WWE, there's a stronger possibility than there was in previous years. I just don't think they're going to do it. How about you?
I don't know. I guess I'd say there's like a 30% chance. I wouldn't give it quite like a 50-50 chance, but I'd say there's like a 30% chance of seeing it. I do think we'll see Ziggler versus Ciampa, obviously, and I do think we'll see Ziggler versus Breaker. I'm imagining they'll probably put Ziggler over Ciampa. Ciampa will go to Raw full time, and then Ziggler will wrestle Breaker for the title. But Breaker will retain over Ziggler. That's kind of just how I feel like it'll probably play out. Thank you, Throwback, for the super chat. Always good to see you, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, buddy. I mean, they're doing a takeover Night 1 of WrestleMania. It's like Saturday afternoon or whatever. I could see Ziggler against Breaker headlining that show. Ziggler's facing Ciampa next week, and Ziggler can win that and let him go on a run in NXT. We talked about this a lot last week, but let some of these WWE guys have like actual runs in NXT, because that's when NXT was very fun. When Cesaro would go down there and just do a run, Tyson Kidd, and he'd just go down there and like do a run. Like that was fun stuff in NXT. Ziggler is certainly a guy that could use that, the fresh coat of paint, as they like to say. The Indies, Stephen Jensen. What is your Indie spotlight for this week?
So my Indie spotlight this week is another one that I think fans have been rattling their brains about, trying to figure out like if this scenario is going to happen, because I'm sure it's on so many people's minds. Will Cody Rhodes wrestle Brett Lauderdale in a death match for control of Game Changer Wrestling?
Why isn't he facing Gage? Wouldn't Lauderdale send Gage?
Yeah, but I think Cody's trying to like take over. Like he wants to own the company. So like, I think okay. Brett, it'd have to be him versus Brett, kind of like McMahon versus McMahon, kind of.
Oh, I mean, breast bless. Why can't I put these two words together? Bless Brett if he actually does the death match against Cody. Sure. Let Cody. Cody's gonna do a GCW match. Wouldn't that be great if Cody
Oh, it would
just
be
went in there and did a
great.
GCW
Do
match?
him and Mox for the GCW title, even though like that's the thing about GCW though, is like Cody could have wrestled GCW the whole time being in AEW.
How pissed is Tony Khan if GCW books Cody and Moxley and Tony just didn't get it together to do it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, but
I think Tony nixes it. I think he goes, nope, not doing that.
All joking aside, I would love to see Cody actually wrestle a bit in GCW. I would. That is a massive dream of mine. Actually, how about you go first with your real indie spotlight, because mine kind of ties into the interview.
Okay, my indie spotlight is Nick Wayne. And yes, he did sign a contract with AEW that, according to Brian Alvarez, doesn't like kick in full time and isn't like official until he's 18. So he's got I've seen disputes on whether he's 16 or 17. I'm pretty sure he's 17, right?
I think he is now,
okay.
but like as of recently.
Okay. Because like different websites are reporting different things. I think that F4W reported that he was 17, and I would imagine, considering how close the ties are with Brian and Buddy, that they would know his age better.
For people who don't know, Brian Alvarez was trained by Buddy Wayne, who is Nick Wayne's father. So.
Yeah, so I would imagine they actually know his age. But more than him going to AEW, where does he fit in AEW? Since that's at least a year out, it would seem right now. Getting a contract at 17 based on your work just around the indies and everything, pretty big deal out here. And like he was supposed to be part of the Hammerstein show. There was cops got called, somebody snitched, and so he wasn't part of that show. He could be wrestling Will Ospreay at Joey Janela's spring break. Janela said he was going to try to make that happen. I would imagine he's going to have a monster WrestleMania weekend. He's going to be all over the place. He just wrestled Christopher Daniels at Defy. That was the match that he lost, and then Darby Allin came out and offered him the AEW contract. He's going to be wrestling Isaiah Swerve Scott, Shane Strickland, Swerve the Realist, whatever he's calling right now. But he's going to be wrestling Swerve at Defy, and I think that's the end of February. So like he's going on a run right now, and you've seen more of his stuff than I have, Stephen Jensen. But from the little I've seen, very impressive stuff for a 16, now 17-year-old.
Yeah. Oh, he's already very, very good, and he's only going to keep getting better. And it reminds me kind of like Jordan Oliver when Jordan was a little bit younger. He used to get a lot of like flack for being too like lanky and skinny, and like because Jordan was young when he started wrestling, and now he's like in his early 20s and he's filled out more. It's like how I am. I have long arms and stuff. Like I can only get a certain amount of jack no matter what I do. But like that's going to happen for Nick Wayne also. Like anyone who's out there that's like, he's too small, he's too young. It's like, they're making an investment right now on this kid where he's already really, really good in the ring. Like way better than I think anyone would expect. Like that's never seen him before. If you never seen Nick Wayne and you hear he's 16, 17 or whatever, and you watch his matches, before you watch him, you're probably going to think, well, he's probably pretty good for like a 16-year-old. Like, no, he's just actually really good. And what I think is so cool about this is it gives a lot of hope to other literal kids, like teenage wrestlers, like Billy Starks and Starboy Charlie and Marcus Mathers, like these kind of wrestlers who now they can see this like clear path into AEW without having to wait until they're 18. Like now, if Tony Khan wants to do more of this, because that's the thing, Nick Wayne's incredible, but I think Billy Stark, Starboy Charlie, and Marcus Mathers are as good as Nick Wayne is. Like, I think that if Nick is able to get a contract, I think those three are able to also. And also you get a bonus potentially with Billy Starks because her dad, Robert Bellamy, better known as Mouse, is one of the best photographers in all of wrestling. So they AEW might wind up getting like a ringside photographer out of it too, potentially. So like, I'm super, super stoked for him. And I saw a lot of people saying, who is this guy? And I'm like, just really watch any of his stuff. You'll be impressed. But specifically GCW. If you watch anything he's done in GCW over the last like 6 months or so, you'll know why there's so much buzz around him and why he got a contract so young. And once again, third generation, like it's not like his family's going to be for him doing these things. Like he's going to be able to accomplish stuff his dad and his grandpa like never got to accomplish in wrestling. So like it also isn't anything where it's like parents who are going to be like, oh, I don't know if you should do this. I'm sure Buddy Wayne is like, yes, take the deal. Let's go. You know what I mean? So like, I think it's awesome for Nick.
I mean, you mentioned Starboy Charlie, and it seemed like he was on the fast track to a similar spot like this. Mustafa Ali just tweeted that he's a fan of Starboy Charlie. Jonathan Gresham, he said he learned stuff from Starboy Charlie, which, you know, Jonathan Gresham's been around everywhere, wrestled everywhere. Starboy Charlie, a teenager, and he's learning stuff from him. It's very unfortunate he broke his leg in October, and you know, is working his way back from that. But it seemed like he was on a fast track to a spot very similar to this as well.
And he's been mentored and tag team with Chris Dickinson, who's like one of the top names on the indies and in GCW. So like when Starboy is healthy again, like he'll be, and he's already been teasing it. He's been showing up at some of the shows and like getting involved in storylines again and stuff, but he hasn't wrestled yet. But yeah, man, how exciting for someone like that. Imagine being Nick Wayne as like a junior or senior in high school, and like on Wednesday night you're at AEW Dynamite. Maybe you get a quick match, you know, against someone just so the fans kind of get to see you a little bit, and then like you get to go back to school. You'd be the coolest kid ever at school. Like you're on national TV at 17 years old doing wrestling. Like that's incredible. I'm really happy for him, and he's so good. Like, and I recommend y'all check out the Weekender podcast that I do on Fightful Select. I've been talking about all these wrestlers, but like if you want specifics on Nick Wayne, I've been talking about him. I mean, it's been years, but I mean, even more specifically, probably the last 6 months or so, really saying like, I can't wait till he turns 18 because like he's going to get signed so fast. And now it's like, it's already happened. So that's a really good spot, by the way. I'm not just tooting my own horn, but like, if you want to know more about indie wrestling and kind of like who's up next and who to keep your eyes on, who the people that will be showing up on your favorite mainstream wrestling shows, we talk about a lot of these wrestlers years before most people are over there. So like, check that out.
Your indie spotlight for the week, Stephen Jensen.
My indie spotlight is, I already did the GCW bit with Cody. So the Uncharted Territory season 4, which has traditionally been a Beyond Wrestling show. AC Mack recently won a match to get control of the show for the Southeast. So Uncharted Territory, independentwrestling.tv, use code FIGHTTALK, IWTV. The Uncharted Territory show is not only going to be in the Southeast, what that also means is that the whole production crew and everyone involved is also going to be here regionally. So a lot more of the IWTV shows like Action Wrestling, SCI, SUP, a lot of the shows, some of them it's hard to like do live for. We're going to get a lot of live Southeast wrestling shows soon on IWTV. So there's a trickle down effect involved with with Uncharted Territory. I'm so used to saying Beyond Wrestling Uncharted Territory. With Uncharted Territory, I believe it's going to be in the TWE Arena in Chattanooga, is where I think they're doing that show. I'm really excited for it. There's a lot of really great wrestling in the Southeast. I've been saying it for years, and they've been kind of on the radar for a lot of people, but I think this is going to be a big breakout situation for a lot of these guys in the South, especially guys like Merck and Damian Tangra and some of these guys that like we really only see a lot in the South. I think it's going to be a big launching point for a lot of them nationally and worldwide. So yeah, that's my spotlight. Uncharted Territory is coming to the Southeast for season 4 on independentwrestling.tv, and I'm pretty excited for it.
AC Mack defeated Willow Nightingale at Galentine's Day Massacre for a women's wrestling revolution event that was held this weekend to get control. And you're the king of the indies here on this show, but Uncharted Territory was a show that I would watch weekly. I would have it on and, you know, pay attention to what I could. But yeah, it was always a Beyond Wrestling product, and it always took place at White Eagle, I believe is the name of the
it sounds right. Yeah.
Yes.
That's that same building that they do like all that stuff out
yeah, exactly. It's in Massachusetts. I've had to write it so many times, writing up results. But yeah, it always took place over there. And when we had AC Mac on, he said like the title's in the South now. Like they had to come to the South. Like Beyond, he got into the big thing with Beyond owner Drew when he won the title and everything. He's like, oh, IWTV is coming to the South. This is what's going to happen, and that's what's going to happen. And you're right that it seems like it's going to be a big spot for Southeast Wrestling because now all those shows will be live, and the Uncharted Territory series, which I think, and I could be wrong on this, but this is my own perception of thing. It feels like the biggest show on IWTV. Like it feels like the show that gets
like for like a weekly type.
Yeah.
It's, if not, it's very, very high up there. I don't think you're wrong by saying that. Yeah,
it feels like the show that kind of like gets the most buzz week to week is the Uncharted Territory show. And I think part of that was Beyond Wrestling because they do really good shows and they bring in some top names and stuff. But now that show's moving to Southeast and whatever promotion it's under, if it is under Action or if it's just it's Southeast and
they're
Beyond
still
Wrestling.
trying to figure that out. Okay. I believe I asked about that, and I don't know if it's going to be. It might actually be branded just as Southeast First presents Uncharted Territory, but there's a chance it might be under the Action Wrestling banner from what
I would imagine now they will be able to get some of these bigger names that you've heard of, and then you can cultivate and raise the tide of Southeast, sort of like what Beyond did with the program Uncharted Territory, where they got some bigger names for the shows, but it really did put the spotlight on the Northeast and those guys up there and boosting them. So I feel like Southeast, they're going to utilize this to their advantage, and it will be big for the Southeast.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And the interview portion today, I know we got to get to that soon, but we have John Mosley, aka Mose, aka Jumpin' Johnny Mosley, who is involved with all these shows. He's going to be on commentary for Southeast First. Well, he was on commentary for Action Wrestling Southeast First. He'll be on commentary going forward with he's on Uncharted Territory shows. He's a part of Action. He's a part of SUP. He's a part of the whole scene, and he's all over the place. And you'll be hearing all about that and more about what he has going on because he's a very busy guy. Does ring announcing, does color commentary, book shows, KOBK, Kill or Be Killed. He's promoting those events now, and also just a shout out or a heads up on this interview. The internet connection was a little spotty at points, but we got the audio clear throughout the whole thing. And so just bear with us. If it's a little shaky, it's a really good interview here with us and John Mosley. And that was a great kind of segue because IWTV, Uncharted Territory, Southeast First, all this stuff. And John Mosley, aka my buddy Mose, is a great guy to be talking to this week on the Spotlight, Creator Spotlight.
Guys, we're going to throw it over to the Creator Spotlight, as mentioned by Jensen. Mose, independent wrestling commentator, KOBK. Here we go.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the interview portion of the Spotlight. We are joined today by John Mosley, a.k.a. Mose, a.k.a. Jumpin' Johnny Mosley. You know him as the voice of many independent wrestling promotions. He is a commentator. He is a ring announcer. He is now booking his own shows. You might know of the Kill or Be Killed group and the new shows that they've been promoting. So John Mosley, thank you for joining, man. A good friend of mine got him on the show. How you doing, man?
Yeah, man, happy to be here. Thanks y'all for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate you joining us today. It has been recording this on Tuesday. It has been a hectic day. So I mean, you're running your own shows with Kill or Be Killed. Jensen, I'm going to jump in with this first question. When is Cody Rhodes coming to Kill or Be Killed? That's what I think everybody wants to know.
May have a couple. I'm going to try to get ahead of him, though I'm not against having Cody Rhodes on a KOBK show.
Yes. He wouldn't fit in. He wouldn't fit in so good with that crew. I don't know. Kind of different vibe you get from Cody than the rest of those dudes, huh?
No, yeah, definitely though. Hottest free agent, if a question mark going right now, no doubt.
Well, Mose, you got a lot going on, man. So let the people know kind of how did you get in, like a foot in the door when it came to independent wrestling? Because like I said, now you're doing a lot of stuff. But I know it's been like a long process of you kind of slowly becoming like a jack of all trades and now just becoming like really, really heavily utilized in the scene.
Yeah, the main thing, I got told no a lot. Just kept coming back. I had a friend that when I graduated from ETSU, I had a friend that has a small promotion in Tennessee, and that's how I met a lot of people. That's where I met Brett. So I went there to help film, and after doing that for a few months, I just kind of started riding with Brett to places and driving places, and anything they needed, filming. I wasn't doing anything on camera yet. I was just trying to, be a helping hand is all. And then really, it was the pandemic. I was doing commentary some on smaller shows, but when the pandemic hit, man, I was ready to go. A couple places, let me put me in positions to really get some good reps, and I've gotten better quick because of Dylan Hells, because of his advice, and just working with him all the time. That's the thing too, is I've had to call some really not great shows, like when I wasn't very good. So now that I've gotten better, I'm calling good shows with like really, really incredible talent. So it's just really, taking that by the reins and really using it. And that's where, we get into the show and KOBK shows and stuff like that, was just learning, using good opportunities and getting everything I could out of them. A lot of help from Carrie Awful at Crux. I learned a lot there. Action Wrestling, TWE, Southern Underground Pro. The Scenic City. I'm around a lot of great minds, so I've gotten to really pick at them too, which has been I've only really been around wrestling for like 4 or 5 years, but I've gotten like a decade of knowledge in that.
Yeah, you mentioned Dylan, who we talked about Dylan a little bit. We had AC Mack on, and you do a lot of work with him. Who else would you kind of put in there? I know like Struggles is another big one. Who else has kind of been helping you out when it comes to the commentary side?
Struggles gave me some advice for sure early on. Emil's given me some advice. Shout out MLJ. It's really like my people too. We're hard on each other. A lot of professional like wrestlers and just talent, a lot of them don't want to be, they kind of want to be told good things versus the truth sometimes. So having Brett and Dylan and Heater and these guys that I know, they're not attacking me. They're it's brutally honest, and that's made me get better quick, because there's nothing worse than like knowing I could have called a match better, and then Dylan is right there to kind of like this and this. So that made me get better quick. But it really is. It's Brett. It's Dylan Hells. Dylan's like a mentor to me at this point. With everything the last year, I would not be as good as I am or really be where I'm at without Brett Ison or Dylan Hells for sure.
Yeah.
What is your approach when it comes to commentary? Because I watch a lot of independent shows. I see a lot of chatter when it comes to independent shows on Twitter. And a lot of times people are like, the commentary is unprofessional. They're just cracking jokes and all this stuff. They're not actually talking about the matches. I've heard a lot of stuff where, and it depends on the show. Nick Gage is showing up at shows and he's drinking and he's having a blast out there. But like personally, like what is your approach when it comes to independent commentary?
Yeah, I'm not a big. I'll have a drink or two only at sup shows. If I'm calling a Southern Underground Pro show, I may have like a PBR. I like to attack it. We're there for the talent in ring. I don't want to make it ever about me. I don't want it ever to be about, getting a joke in or nothing. Like, to be honest with you guys, 9 times out of 10, if I've like when I'm doing my homework through the week, if maybe something like, that'll be funny, or like I'll try to work that in. Most of the time I don't, because I I think what's really got me far is being genuine, and I don't plan. I mean, it's everything I'm saying. It's reactionary. Doing a lot of homework the week of is a part of that. I know, if I'm calling your match, like I've probably watched, unless I'm literally calling, a lot of the action talent, the Southern talent, I'm calling their stuff weekly. So I'm not really worried about them as much. But if I'm kind of like I'm on the Blitzkrieg Pro show, I'm making my debut up there in a couple weeks. So that whole week, I'm going to be watching like so much of that talent. I mean, I'm familiar with them, but I want to know everything about you, so I don't have to think about it. I can just react. I may hit my vape pen a little bit before a show to kind of, calm down. Maybe a little high if things are going real well. Intermission, I may hit the vape pen again. But I really feel like when I'm out there, I want it to be. I want you to leave your match if I'm calling it and just being like, he did great on this. Everything I want, which is those are the best messages, is like after the Restival show, which I wasn't all the way happy with my performance there. There's a couple of things I wish I'd done different, but I had a couple of talent hit me up like, oh, you nailed this or this. And, I really liked you saying that. So that's the best, just knowing like, again, that I'm an instrument for you and for you to watch that match back and go, okay, cool. I'm glad he was there. That's the goal.
Yeah, you mentioned Southern Underground Pro there, and I definitely got to talk about that for a second because that's how me and Mose know each other. Full disclosure, from my time living in Nashville, and that was back when neither of us were really like that involved. Like we were like writing about it for like various sites and like podcasting and stuff like that. But for all intents and purposes, we were basically just fans that would go to these shows, and then you just kind of start seeing the same people at all the same shows, and you start talking to people, we start becoming friends with people, and now like years later, like I'm doing my thing with Fightful, you're doing your thing all over the place, in promoting shows now. The vape pen you're talking about, I'm very familiar with in the Basement East. Shout out to the Basement East in Nashville. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny how much has happened in just a few years, just going from pretty much just being a fan to being as involved as you are, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was paying dues, man. It was a lot. I mean, it's a weird brotherhood. Like I say, it's a brotherhood, but it's weird for me because I'm not a wrestler. I'm not a worker, but I've been accepted. I mean, the first couple of shows I commentated on, like it was so weird to go in the locker room. Like that's, there's little things like that in wrestling that matter because of the respect level. And it took a lot for me to kind of accept that in a weird way, I'm a part of that brotherhood. And that's something I had to earn because you're right, man. Like I started out on the other side of the security gate there. I mean, the first time I was ever in a locker room is Brett and I film. Obviously, I've made a lot of videos for him, but we've got like a little documentary, man. I filmed like 2 years of stuff, and that was the first time I ever was in a locker room. Was him literally like, "I need you back here to film some of this stuff." So, I mean, paying dues, going to shows, asking to help. That's made it to where I feel more accepted. But it is, man, it is really wild to think about. Like you're saying, having more than a couple of PBRs and really just being a fan. And that's the cool thing now is like when promotions that I don't do commentary for come close and my friends are on those shows, I get to go and be a fan there. Like, 9 times out of 10, if I'm at shows, I'm working it in some fashion. So it is really cool to like, see these guys out here and just go and just mark out for them again, because that's what I am at the end of the day. It's just I'm a fan, man. Like you said, I still remember talking when Brett wrestled Alley Cat. Like me and you had we chilled an intermission of that one, and like that was just a really cool moment in life beyond all this. And now to say that I'm commentary, me and Dylan Hills do commentary for Southern Underground Pro. Like it almost feels unreal because of how crazy it is just to know. I mean, like you're saying, how quick that happened, and now like this last sub show I called like with fans in the Basement East, bro, that was insane.
Dude, I gotta quick story about that. I remember exactly what you're talking about with the right after Alley Cat at the time versus Brett Eisen for
At
the
the
Bone
time,
Storm
yeah.
Championship.
Yep.
And we were both chilling
Great
on the at intermission on the deck outside of the Basement East, and you were a little more involved then with knowing what was going on. And I remember we were just hanging out, and at the time I was just doing interviews with people, just random interviews, whoever wanted to do an interview kind of thing. And we're standing outside, and you're like, hey man, what do you think about that title match? And I was like, dude, that was a great match. Like, I don't know why that didn't main event though. Like, they did the title match before the intermission, and like Brett's like the face of this company, and Allie's the heart and soul of the company, and like, I don't know why they would have done this at intermission. And you were like, yeah, man, I'm here. They got some wild stuff for the main event. And I was like, I mean, I guess we'll see. And the main event wound up being Dominic Guarini and Kevin Coops. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing a Sad Conf shirt. That's how long I've been down.
Shout out.
Was before
Sad
they were even
boys.
Violence is Forever. They were Sad Conf before they changed their name.
That's right.
And it was the two of them versus Cabana Man Dan and Marco Stunt, a.k.a. They Might Be Giants. And it was an ultra-violent death match in the Basement East. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's why this was the main event. Like, it was one of the most brutal matches I've ever seen in my life.
Insane, dude. That was a crazy, crazy day.
You mentioned Alley Cat, and now like she's one of the top wrestlers on GCW, and I imagine you have relationships with some of these wrestlers that go back further back, like you guys have been talking about. What is it like for you? You mentioned your come up, but now you get to see like your friends come up as well, and they're wrestling at the Hammerstein Ballroom. I see you got the ECW hat on there, like that was obviously a big spot. Like now I imagine you're seeing a lot of your friends wrestling at the Hammerstein this past month. Like, what does that mean for you?
Oh man, it was nuts. I mean, AJ Gray, you know, like I've known AJ. Gosh, I've probably known AJ at least 3 or 4 years. So I mean, that was incredible. Jordan Oliver is the guy that I got to know because of his time coming down here and helping getting him booked a couple places. It's incredible, man. Like that's the stuff where, because of how much homework I do, because of all the extra prep time I like to put in, I don't get to watch a ton of wrestling that I'm not involved in, but I always make a point to like, I haven't watched, like, I guess the Hammerstein show was the first one in quite a while that I've watched, you know, start to finish GCW, but every GCW show, you know, I'm going to watch Jordan's match. I'm going to watch Hoodfoot's match. I'm going to watch, I mean, it's like you're saying, like, I can just be a fan and understand that, like, the first time I saw Hoodfoot, it was like a comedy thing. Like he did, he was in the orange jumpsuit, like just got off the block or something. And now, you know, he is like just, I mean, the last 6 months, very few names are just hotter on the independent scene because of what it means when you have Hoodfoot on your show now. So it's really hard to put into words other than knowing like obviously that's where I want to be. Like I'm very happy where I'm at now, but it's exciting to know like these talents that have just worked so hard for so long and been told no, and, you know, been told this and that, and now they did that. Like they had that amazing show that like everybody saw, and they got to have moments, whether, you know, like AJ wants us to, you know, we're going to remember those moments whether everybody wants us to or not from that show. And that's the coolest.
Yeah, a name you mentioned a few times here is Brett, that being Brett Eisen, who, for all intents and purposes, is basically the leader of KOBK. Like, y'all are all a family, but like he's kind of, it's fair to say he's basically the leader of your group, right? And you know, shout out to all those guys. I don't want to miss anyone, but you got Brett Eisen, you got Heater, you got Lutha, you got Sean Campbell, and who am I missing? Akira. Am I missing anyone there?
Akira.
I think I got everyone. Yeah.
No, that's the crew. Sean Campbell. Shout out Sean Campbell. I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah, I'm glad to see it because he's only like 19 or something still. So
yeah, he's 20. He may be about to turn 20 or 21. I can't remember. He's a young gun.
So I know you on a more personal level, but like for people watching this, kind of what goes into y'all's decision making on who gets in with your crew?
We really hadn't planned on this until gosh, it had to be maybe last October or something like that. It was a couple months before. I've gotten close with Sean. I didn't realize how long I'd known him. Brett has known him for a few years. All of us really like Sean, so it's that thing of we really liked him and just respected his attitude, and like you said, very young, but already has a great brain for what he wants to do. Very good, very confident. So we kind of had all those marks, and then on top of that, he just fits in well with us. Like, he's super duper reckless in a great way in the ring, and kind of that same attitude outside of it. We can all be together, and like kind of we all. I mean, it's that weird thing where we all kind of pick around each other, and it's so much fun. And he fit in well, and he does, man. He just fits what it means for each other to have that, to wear those letters because of stuff we've been through and the attitude we face of whether good, bad, or ugly. Like it comes down to the marrow sometimes, the bone marrow, and like Campbell fit, and it happened. We had talked about the day of, like, we think we're gonna do it, and then like to your point about Brett, Brett said, if we want it to happen, like, I'll come get the mic from you. So that match ends. He's right there to get the mic from me. And it's such a great moment that we got to have with him. But it's like an unspoken thing of like, we just kind of knew. Brett brought it up to me, and we brought it up to Heater, and then we all talked about it with Akira and Luther one night. And it's again that weird thing where it just kind of worked, and now I'm really excited to see what he does this year. He's already had a couple of really crazy matches, fresh into February. He's already put his body out there. I'm really hoping we see him a lot at TWE more this year. But he's one that definitely high on for so many reasons, Sean Campbell.
What are your like overall goals? I mean, Jensen mentioned you're running shows, you're obviously doing commentary. I don't want to say where do you see yourself in 5 years? It sounds like a job interview. But like, what are your overall goals?
I think I've changed a lot the last 6 months. 6 months ago, last year, I wanted to be everywhere. I wanted to be on every promotion every weekend. If I could, I'd call every match. But it just, you can't do it, right? It's just not possible. Everybody has their people. So I had a great year. I think I ended up doing, I think I did commentary in like 8 or 9 states last year. For Counting Mania weekend, where I called, a bunch of different promotions for Family Reunion. I think 13 different promotions. So I kind of, without really meaning to, I knocked off a lot of goals right there. So right now it's put on big for the South. We're going to have a big year. Southeast Wrestling, Southeast first. I just want to keep getting better on commentary. I mean, I would love to call some matches, with Struggles, with Emil, keep calling matches to Dylan. To your point, I want to call matches with my friends in big moments. Like, that's like, if I could be anywhere, it would be calling like one of Jordan's matches in Hammerstein. Like, that's really cool to me. Or the Showboat, or just kind of somewhere that big moment. Because I've been blessed to call a lot of really great matches with my friends down here. So bigger stage. As far as KOBK shows, like, keep surprising everybody, keep having our show come from a great place. We talked about it a million times, but we had a lot of things go against our way that first show, but it came out great because of our energy and the fact that locker room knew that whole show was put together for them, for the fans. I mean, it came from a real place. So just want to keep putting on real shows. We've got May 7th, our next show. We're going to put on 3 total this year. So, and we're going to be back in December with no ring in the TWE arena. I've already got some kind of crazy ideas for that one. So just kind of keep getting better, keep being entertaining, man. Keep having people say they had a great time. I mean, multiple people told me our last show was one of the best they've ever been to. And like, I just more of that, please. Thanks.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, I mean, check it out on IWTV. Use code Fight Talk if you want over there.
Please.
And yeah, see, that helps me and Mose because we do some work together. So but it's one of those things where, like, if y'all don't know what happened in this first show, basically before the show started, the ring broke. So they didn't even have a ring for their first ever show. And all the wrestlers on the fly had to basically just be like, all right, I'm down, and like figure it out, you know, and they did, and the show ruled.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly, yeah. I had a ring, it broke. I had a second ring that an hour before doors. Nope, can't get that ring. Like, we got nothing. And Brett just told me, I'm behind the TWE arena. Like, I can feel my heart breaking. And Brett goes, man, we got two choices. We either cancel, and we can't do that, or we do this. We're going to set this down, and we're going to go. I offered everybody booked. I said, listen, I don't expect you to do this. I'm going to pay you no matter what. But don't feel like you have to do this if you don't feel comfortable. And it was like not a hesitation. I mean, the first person to say was Masha. She was very excited about this opportunity. Eric Royal was another one, man. Everybody on that show. I mean, they're probably sick of me. I'll send like a 2 a.m. thank you text for something 3 months ago. Like, I thank you because it was a home run. I mean, it took me a while. I was upset, man. That's the weird thing. I was upset all night. I didn't sleep all night because it wasn't the show I had in my head. And I got a message from Dylan saying, don't let the show you had already booked in your head mess up the show that happened, because what happened was really cool. But yeah, please, anyone that hasn't, please go watch it. Our IWTV numbers went very well. We are going to be live streaming May 7th. That's official. So we as of now we have a ring. I've told Stephen this. Assuming everything goes well, we will only have one no ring show a year in December. Only one.
Yes, one scheduled. Like, the others are supposed to have rings. There's one that will intentionally not have a ring.
And it just quickly too. The worst thing too was everyone loved the show, right? So I have multiple messages like, "Oh, just always do these shows," and I'm like, "I want to book a wrestling show."
Well, you've got the one show a year. It's almost, I guess, like the anniversary show of, hey, like, we're gonna remember when the ring broke for that show, and we're gonna run that back every year. I like that concept. I think it's tremendous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had to because it was. I mean, the next day I'm all down on myself, and I'm just getting, every show KOBK has to do this no ring, and I messaged Brett like, I don't want to do that. Like, and that it was Brett's idea. He's like, then why don't we just do an anniversary December thing? But I've told Steven that I think before. Like, it was like, success is so great, but it's also like not the success you want. So it's that weird thing where you're like, everything went well, but like I want a ring. Like, I want a wrestling ring.
Well, because you're putting together like all these dream matches on the assumption of like you can put on the matches you have in your head with the wrestlers that you wanted to book against each other.
Oh man, it's like the Nick Iggy. We have Nick Iggy versus Cole Radrick on the sold out show from this past December on IWTV, and that the match we got was not at all the match we would have got in the ring. And it's such a weird thing of how it worked. Like, it's just, again, a credit to the locker room. Like, I'm eternally thankful to everyone that was on that show.
It added like an extra level of like, I don't like using this term as wrestling fans don't, but like realness in that show, because people had to come out there and like improvise. Like, people like who would normally have like a top rope finisher or something that like required the ring. Now they're hitting like stiff lariats instead, or they're using like they're doing tornado DDTs, but instead of using the ring, they're jumping off the wall of the building and stuff. And like, and the crowd was super into it. Shout out to everyone who was there live, because they were hot as hell the whole time. And also, man, speaking of all this, and speaking of Southeast first and just, Southern independent wrestling, we both know, as does the world at this point, like the South's about to blow up big time because uncharted territory is coming down south. We've got a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of these IWTV shows, it sounds like we're going to be getting live now that we might not be getting live before. So like, this is really like the best time ever to be a fan of independent wrestling, especially if you're a fan of the Southeast scene.
It's hard for me to put into words of how excited we all are. It's something that as proud as we are, especially these last few years, like, so much talent in the South right now that's not the goofy talent, the goofy kind of promotions that the South gets a bad rap for. I mean, between Derek Neal, Adam Priest, Merck, Jaden Newman, it's just this talent right now that, because it really has felt like independent wrestling's ran to the Northeast for a while, and those are great promotions up there. But even with shows like Action and Southern Underground Pro and a couple others, really putting on great shows, we still feel so overlooked at times because it still is like the best of the best in the Northeast. And it's like, well, yeah, some are, but like some are down here. So to see those talents, and then like a Sean Campbell again, so young, maybe with a few more cameras on him the next few months or however this year, it's exciting, man. It's exciting to be a part of it. It's something that I really feel like, as all the times I was told no and all the times things didn't really work out and my bad commentary and just maybe given things, I called a Southern Underground Pro match years ago that I look back on, I was not ready for. And I told myself if I ever got back, it's going to be the best I could ever be. So hitting my stride like I am now with it being this year, it's just, it's an honor to whatever part I end up playing in this. It's going to be really, really exciting and really something that I know I'm going to hold on to. So I'm going to say it again to Dylan and to Matt Griffin and everybody at Southern Underground Pro, just people that believed in me. Jade Newman at TWE, like it's something that I'm going to bring that energy back to y'all big time.
Mose, we appreciate you joining us here on the show. Let everyone know where they can find you, where they can find your work, and where they can check out KOBK shows.
Please follow me on Twitter at Mose KOBK. As mentioned, our first inaugural show, Sold Out, is on IWTV now. Please go watch that. And then May 7th, KOBK Blood on My Jeans will be streaming live from the TWE Arena. Tickets go on sale. I think I'm going to drop them like March 1st. And also, lastly, please, anyone watching or listening, whatever, February 26th, couple weeks, I'm making my commentary debut for Blitzkrieg Pro up in Massachusetts. Pretty crazy card. Shout out O'Shea Edwards. I'm really excited about it. It's something that, like I said, that last year of really grinding, this is a big moment. It's something I've worked for. And thank you to Blitzkrieg, and thank you to everyone that said my name on Twitter that got me there. So anyone that could watch that, please do.
I was about to ask that was the one where Blitzkrieg was on Twitter looking for commentary, and I did see O'Shea drop your name on there. I think I did as well. I remember seeing a thread, and it was like Mose, and that is what got you the booking.
It 100% is. It was a lot of the locker room, a lot of the boys and girls that support me. That was really, like you said, it was O'Shea, and then it was Jaden, and I think you did, and Akira, and these people I look up to and respect and just love putting their necks out and their names out for me. And I was literally, true story, I was at a bar with my wife, Haley, and Hardway Heater, eating burgers and drinking Tecates. And I have a DM from Blitzkrieg Pro, hey man, what you doing? So to share that with Heater was really cool. But yeah, again, thank you everyone. Now whenever someone says, why do you go on Twitter so much? I'm like, yo, I actually got a booking from Twitter.
Do you owe Jensen a booking fee? Like, do you have to give him part of your cut, Jensen and O'Shea and everybody that tagged you in that one?
do not get that started because they don't want it. I assure you they'll want it. And I'll be like, O'Shea, I assure you your envelope's going to be a little thicker, buddy. Don't worry.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thanks for joining us, Mose. It's always a pleasure. And if y'all want to hear me and Mose, we talk MMA pretty often on my podcast. So he's a big UFC fan. Show him some love. Make sure you're following him on Twitter and all that good stuff. So thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll be right back here on the spot. Not speak. I had my mic muted that inside.
No, I just fixed the mute on my end too. Okay, cool. Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. I was saying that was Mose from Kobk and doing a million things when it comes to independent wrestling and commentary. Stephen Jensen put that one together, so I appreciate that. And Mose was tremendous, doing a lot of cool things right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully you can hear both of us now, everyone in the chat. I did get permissions before we went live, so I just saw little microphones because I got to get set up for tomorrow. I'll go ahead and just plug my stuff right now and get out of here because I know there's other people who have shows that y'all want to watch. So I'll get my stuff out of the way. Tonight, twitch.tv/Fightful Gaming. Myself and Joel Pearl will be playing Mario Kart. If you have a Nintendo Switch, then come game with us. We'll give out the code and you can play with us live in our tournaments. It's a lot of fun. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, myself and SP3, Fightful Overbooked. We got Degrassi Dudes. That's every single Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing a debate. I will be debating in favor of Gavin Spinner Mason. He'll be debating in favor of Manuela Manny Santos. So Spinner versus Manny. Who is the best character in the history of Degrassi? We're going to be talking about that tomorrow morning. Saturday night, myself, Denise Salcedo, Fightful main channel, youtube.com/Fightful, the same place you're watching this right now. We're going to be reviewing Impact No Surrender right after the show, so join us for that. Everything else I got going on this weekend. Oh, and of course, Fightful Select Weekender podcast. It's every Sunday talking independent wrestling, FightfulSelect.com. Everything else I got going on, I'll keep that updated on my Twitter at FightTalk_, and please use code FightTalk on independentwrestling.tv.
There you go. Jensen is everywhere, doing a million different things. Guys, you can go to youtube.com/Fightful Overbooked. You can just go to FightfulOverbooked.com. It takes you right to our YouTube page. We have daily content every day. We have a Grappy Hour with Joel and Lily, throwing back some drinks and talking the world of wrestling. We have Coexisting with Rob and Maggie. That is live, I believe, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. If you were looking for Day After Dynamite on Fightful Overbooked today, it has been pushed back a day, so it is 2 days after Dynamite.
Oh, I was rushing to get out of here so people could go watch Will. Okay, he's not on today. I didn't know that.
Will is not on today. He is on tomorrow. He had scheduling change that he tend to, so he'll be on tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, reviewing Dynamite and talking all the fallout from Dynamite and some Cody stuff, I imagine, as well. Plenty of stuff on Fightful Overbooked. As Jensen mentioned, Degrassi Dudes. We have stuff this weekend. We have a live episode of Demo Divas this weekend with Jayshell, Kylie, and Haley at 11 a.m. Eastern, right before the Saudi show, previewing that, talking the weekend women's wrestling as well. Again, daily content on that channel. Go over there, subscribe. Cher Delaware does Strong Style, where she talks about the fashion in wrestling. So much content. We are literally overbooked at Overbooked. I have new stuff coming, hopefully starting next week on the channel as well. Subscribe to Fightful Select. Support Stephen Jensen. Support the Stardust. Guys, we'll catch y'all next week, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fightful, the Spotlight.